Were you a bit surprised today when the team sheet came out for Manchester United that Raphael Varane was on the bench, Phil? Because for the past few weeks, it's Johnny Evans and Harry Maguire seems to be the preferred centre-back. Johnny Evans went off injured, of course, and it's Victor Lindelof who comes into the side.
Yeah, he's obviously got issues, Varane, injury issues. I think
He's been coming on off the bench.
Yeah, I
the
think
past
the
few
manager
games.
struggles to get a good run of games out of him. I think he's getting to an age now where he's probably not as good as he once was. His body and the age is catching up with him a little bit. So I think they have to be careful of him. They have to protect him a little bit. But I'm unsure whether there's an issue ongoing with the manager. But listen, the manager selects the team what he thinks is best to go out and win the game. And you know, if he thinks that partnership like today was Maguire and Lindelof, then that's what it is. And I'm sure Varane, being a professional he is, will train well, work hard, and try and force his way back into this team.
I mean, when you look on paper, okay, quality, Raphael Varane is no offence to Lindelof, no offence to Maguire or anyone else. Varane on paper is far superior than the other two. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I totally get that. But you're on about a player whose injury record isn't great, and he's obviously he misses a lot of football. So,
well, Ten Hag cites tactical reasons. Is that not a bit of an insult to Varane? How would he feel listening to that?
Yeah, he's obviously disappointed not to start in a game in Europe, but I think the other side of that is from the manager's point of view, where obviously can you trust him not trust him in terms of playing, but the injury side. I think obviously he really struggles with injuries, and I think obviously the manager's got a decision to make in these games. Listen, Varane's a top professional. He's won elite honours at Real Madrid, and you know he's had a difficult time this season. But you know I'm sure he can find his form and force his way back into the side.
Gary, when a manager says tactical reasons, how much of that is true? Majority of the time.
Well, I think with a lot of managers these days, there's a smokescreen that gets put up. And if you have a player, Varane, for example, who has some injury problems and you're trying to protect him, I think the last thing you would do would be make it public that one of your players is struggling a little bit with injuries, because you know he might still be able to play with that injury, but you don't want the opposition to know necessarily that he's struggling physically. And I'm kind of trying to work out, you know, with Varane's background, what isn't he able to do tactically for Manchester United?
So that's a question mark. That was the reason behind the derby that he said.
That's what I would say. You know, it's a great point Gary's made there in terms of protecting the player. Obviously, we're not in great form. We're not in, obviously, blowing teams away by any stretch of the imagination. But he's obviously carrying niggles, Varane, and I think it's a perfect way for the manager to protect him. But listen, as a player, as former players, he will be disappointed not to be playing.
But for sure, what you see from your players in training influences your team selection as well. No two ways about that, in my experience. To the extent that people would, you know, in situations where I've managed in the past at different clubs, and somebody afterwards says, "Well, why didn't you play so and so?" And you know, the truth is, I've watched him for 5 days in training. He's not quite there. He is struggling slightly with a bit of a knee discomfort, for example. And I'm not prepared to divulge that to everybody. So I say that I've made the team selection, and the team I put out there was the team that I believe would win. I wouldn't ever disclose the fact that I have a player who's carrying an injury.